Hello, my name is Claudia Torres, and this is the self-defense of my research project. Okay, so my research project is about the disparities in English proficiency between public and private schools in Barranca Bermeja. The first chapter has the introduction. So, the general background of my research project is in Colombia, and Colombia is a multicultural nation. So, as you may know, Colombia has diversity of languages and communities and indigenous people. We also have Afro descendants, and we also have Caucasian people. So in Colombia we have uh, a wide range of different kinds of people, different cultures, which is good. However, the language that the government has set as a second language to be taught across the schools in Colombia is English. And why is that? Because English is the language of globalization, and to be competent in this globalized world, students need to learn English. As you may know, English is the language of science, it's also the language of business. And to be more competent, the government um, has concerns about this situation, and that's why it has set some policies and also some bilingual programs to achieve this goal. So, to achieve this goal, the government has also um, set some standards through the Common European Framework of Reference. So they take these standards and they set different levels, and according to those levels they say, okay, so the main goal is when students finish high school, at least they have to achieve a B2 level, which is intermediate, okay, upper intermediate. So the statement of the problem is that English education in Colombia has shocking disparities. Okay, as you may know, the majority of students fail to be proficient in English. Yeah, because 60% fail to do that, while only 1% are able to get the best scores. So this represents inequality of the education system, which is unfair because not many students have the opportunities to be bilingual, and thus they don't have the same opportunities to compete in this globalized world. So that means that they are in a huge disadvantage, and only a few privileged students from private schools, they can achieve that proficiency in English. Um, so a few people have the privilege to be bilingual, while the majority of students from public schools, they don't. So that's why the research objectives of my research, the main one is to determine the main causes of this disparity between public and private schools in Barranca Bermeja regarding English proficiency according to the bilingual goals aims by the national government. So here, through this research project, I wanted to make a comparison between the proficiency in English achieved by public and private schools in Barranca Bermeja according to the standards set by the government. So the specific objectives of this research are identify differences in pedagogical strategies between public and private schools in Barranca Bermeja, recognize variations on resources, books, infrastructure, technological tools, etc., and also analyze the main differences in teachers' development, professional skills, workshops, and training given by the schools. So here I wanted to um, make comparisons, yeah, to understand why um, students from public schools and students from private schools and public, they have these huge differences. So I wanted to identify the differences. Maybe it is the method, maybe the resources that the teachers use, maybe it's the professional development, maybe they are better trained. So and according to these differences, if I could identify this difference, maybe I could determine why is this discrepancy. Now the scope of the research is well, after checking some references and some papers, um, I've found that some researchers have investigated or has researched in this matter in Colombia. However, the purpose of this work is to understand the national situation in Barrancabermeja and in detail. Okay, so there have been other researches on this topic, but nationwide. Okay, and in this research, I really wanted to focus on Barrancabermeja because it's the community I am familiar with, right? Okay. And nowadays we don't have any data about Barrancabermeja. That's very important to say. So, which are the limitations of the research? So, this study is limited to 3 schools in Barrancabermeja. Okay, so why three? Three because I chose one public school and two private schools because one of the private schools is bilingual and the other private school is not. It's not bilingual. So if I had these 3 schools, they represent different scenarios of English teaching in Barrancabermeja. Now, significance of the study. So the outcomes of this research would be handy to understand the failures of the educational system in terms of bilingualism in Colombia and more specifically in Barrancabermeja. So as I told you before, so if I could find the differences or to determine the causes of this huge gap in English proficiency, maybe I could give some solutions, some suggestions to these schools in order to make improvements. Okay, and so for the chapter 2, we have the literature review. So an overview of the literature is, well, the Ministry of Education policies. We have the law 1651 of 2013. So through this law, the government has said um, what is bilingualism, how should be achieved in Colombia, and all the strategies and methodologies, and also the syllabus um, that should be taught in across the country, right? Now, the Ministry of Education has also set some national bilingual programs like Colombia Bilingüe and Colombia Very Well, and also the Common European Framework of Reference. So the Common European Framework of Reference is very important because um, the government has took these standards um, to compare, okay, or to set the goals to be bilingual in Colombia through the programs that I told before, Colombia Bilingüe and Colombia Very Well. So related previous theories. Bilingualism theories by Cummins. Cummins, he has three theories. He has a communicative proficiency model, or for quadrant model, and he also has the thresholds theory and the common underlying proficiency model. So all these theories are very important to understand bilingualism, right? Because the most important theory for him is that we should teach children by scaffolding, okay, like a threshold, so like step by step, right? And we should also provide some guidance and modeling to students. He also says that despite we may think that English and Spanish, for example, are different language, there's something that is underlying, and that are the different communicative skills like reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Because if, for example, if a student is really good at these communicative skills in their mother tongue, so he will have more advantages when learning another language, in this case English. Okay, so for previous studies, we have previous studies like Correa and Gonzalez. So they studied and they researched on this problem, this big gap between public and private schools, um, but through the country. I mean, in the main cities like Bogota, Barranquilla, Medellin. Also, the British Council, they have researched and on bilingualism in Colombia and the key factors that determine bilingualism. So they also have the concern about the huge gap between public and private schools in Colombia. And also Diaz, Rosero, and Tobar, they research on the main causes of the differences between the performance of public and private schools. Okay, so now the research framework, the theoretical framework. So English in public primary schools in Colombia. So this study, it's my theoretical framework because they did something very similar to the methodology that I wanted to do. And the conceptual framework for my research is, it has different steps. So in the first step, I want to analyze the current policies about bilingualism in Colombia, and also the programs and standards that guide those policies. And also the second step is to choose the three schools that I told you before, the two private schools and one public school. And then after that, I analyze and contrast some variables such as weekly hours. So the main variables. So why teaching English in a private school it's different to teaching English in a public school? What's the main difference? It's the resources, it's the teachers development, it's the infrastructure. So what's the main difference? And the conclusions, the findings that I could get through this research. Okay, so I also have a research hypothesis. So my hypothesis is As public schools, they should grant the right of education. So they are more focused on um, to teach a more variety, and they focus more on the number of students that they have in the schools. While private schools, on the they focus more on the service of education, because that's the service that they provide, and they charge uh, they charge parents for that service, while the government provides free education. For my understanding, private schools have a really good performance, because as they are selling a service and they charge for the service, they have to show the best results to attract more parents. Yeah. While the government, they only care about have a huge number of students to provide the right, no matter if the quality is good or not. Okay, and here are some variables like students, gender, age, socioeconomic status, students' motivations, teachers, school, and also standardized exams like Prueba Saber Pro, and also number of students per classroom, teachers' development, resources to teach, reputation of the school, coverage of the education, and quality of the education. So my idea is to assess these operational variables through service questionnaires and other techniques. And here are some references. So, thanks.